Here's a short video on using heat press inserts, specifically Wham Bam's M3 heat press inserts. Some of the tools you'll need and the best procedures for doing this on your own. So first of all, you're going to need a soldering iron and you're going to need a heat press insert tip. So Wham Bam has two types. One is the solid one for these soldering irons, which have a hollow barrel. And we also have the one with the hole in it. This one goes in the typical soldering irons that have this cuff that you remove. You put this on over the shaft in the middle, and then you screw that down. So either one of these heat press tools are going to be just fine for you, since most people would probably have a simpler soldering iron. I'm going to show you with the most basic one to start with. You're of course going to need some heat press inserts. Wham Bam has M3s on our site and very short ones so that you can put them into very small plates. You might want to have the M3 screw handy so you could easily test for verticality. Another thing that I like to have handy is a piece of metal. This can be a bolt. If you are using the back of a bolt, I like to file off the raised portion so I have something flat, or it could be a cylinder of metal like this brass tube. It has to just be bigger than the insert itself, and the reason why is this is used to push the insert into the plastic piece at the very last stage to ensure that it's flush with the top of the plastic part. So I like to have a metal pushing tool. This is my favorite, but you can easily use the back of a bolt or a screw. And then the last thing you're going to need is either needle nose pliers or a tweezers to be able to hold the insert while you're positioning and working with the hot iron. So let's get started, and I'll show you guys how I would put in a heat press insert. So I made this little test plate, but this is a good plate for you to understand how to design your holes for heat press inserts. So for our M3 heat press inserts, you do want to have a hole that's a 4mm diameter hole. And if you want to really have some great performance, I actually do a 4.4 diameter, small little step, 0.7mm down, 0.7. That way the heat press insert has a place to rest on. So the profile of that, you'll see, has a small little neck or sleeve that goes into the hole. And then it has two upper rings with opposing grooves that really grip into the plastic. So that little ring there helps it get started into the heat throat. Okay. One more thing about this, if you are doing through holes, of course, they just have to go through. If you're doing a blind hole, it has to be at least 4mm deep. You don't want any of the pushed down and spread plastic to come back up in the threads. So that's one more piece of the design guide. So let's go ahead and install an insert. So one way to do it is to hold the insert with some tweezers over the hole with the collar down. And then we push down until it gets started moving. And then after it started moving, I just come in with my metal rod and I flatten it across the top. This does a couple things. First of all, it gets it to be flush with the part where it should be. And also it gets to be perpendicular with the hole, which it should be as well. Now, if it's sitting inside the hole like I've made before, you might not need the tweezers. So we can just go ahead and push it down. I get it moving till it goes down most of the way, but not too far. And then I come in and I hold this over the top. I'm going to go ahead and do the other two. We'll fast forward. We'll have a look at how they come out in a second.
That's really hot. Hopefully I don't mess up this.
Okay, if it doesn't go down all the way, sometimes you just have to give it a second hit of heat. There we go. Okay, so we are done. Let me just shut off the soldering. Okay, one thing you'll want to do is pass a screw through to ensure that no plastic got in. If you have a die and tap and die, you could run one through, but we could pass our screw through. You can see that came out quite nice. I'm just leading it by hand. There's no issues with that threading. There's no excess plastic really moved around. Even the one that was set into the blind hole is done nice and cleanly. So hopefully you found this useful and you can apply it to your projects. It's really a lot of fun and satisfying to have a heat press insert and really nice threads in your parts.